Hi guys, I wanted to share with you this clip because I thought it was quite funny, but also quite interesting. So the former leader of the House, the former candidate to be leader of the Conservative Party and former Tory MP Penny Mordaunt was interviewed by the Telegraph about Nigel Farage and nationalism. Have a listen to this.
Reform it's like an episode of Fantasy Island. Do you remember that?
Can't be saying Farage isn't a unionist. Are you saying that?
I think that the attraction for people to reform is that they are, culture precedes politics. They are playing to this notion I described earlier that politics as usual isn't working. We have to do something different. The state, as it has functioned, is not functioning. It's not delivering. And so you have a lot of disaffected people, but they're coming from all sorts of places. And you can't be in a party that is going to add 150 billion to public expenditure at the same time as cutting it through the Department for Government Efficiency. You can't have a party which is draping itself in the Union flag at one end of the country, but is quietly encouraging Scottish independence at the other. That is just not a coherent platform. That will be a disaster.
Okay, so is Nigel Farage a unionist? Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. Now, where I agree with her, yes, Farage and Reform are tapping into this anger people have that the government is not functioning, that the state is not functioning, it's not delivering for them, that politics is broken. And I've said before how Farage is looking across the pond and seeing the success Donald Trump has had in convincing people to vote against their own interests, and he wants a bit of that as well. He wants to apply that to the UK. Nigel Farage has sold the idea that he's going to shake up politics, that he's going to do things differently, that he's not like the Conservatives or the Labour Party, and the country needs reform, both with a small R and a capital R. Now, when it comes to the economic policies, they don't make any sense, and I completely agree with Penny Mordaunt there. But the final part, where it comes to, is Nigel Farage a unionist? No, he's not. Now, does that mean that Nigel Farage is a Scottish nationalist? Of course he's not. Nigel Farage, if we go back to Brexit, Brexit was mainly an English nationalist project. Of course, it was sold in different ways, but when it came down to the vote, the majority of people who supported Brexit were in England. Now, of course, Wales voted to a certain extent. Scotland, Northern Ireland voted against Brexit. They understood the problems of it. But it was English nationalists who were backing Brexit. And Farage knew that. And that's his power base. He doesn't care about Scotland. He doesn't care about Wales. He'll throw both of them crumbs. It's interesting because, and I said this before, there isn't a leader in Scotland for reform. There isn't a leader in Wales for reform. Whenever there is any sort of presentation or whatever, Farage is the one who delivers the speeches. He doesn't want to share power with anyone, but his focus is not Wales and Scotland, and forget about Northern Ireland. His focus is England. That's his power base. And when it came to Brexit, of course, a lot of people voted for Brexit because they wanted England to get out of the European Union. They didn't care so much about the UK as a whole. Scotland, Northern Ireland were not consulted when it came to the Brexit negotiations, and there was not even a mention of them being involved. It was Westminster deciding. But we've seen on a number of occasions how, on pretty much every occasion, when the choice was between Brexit and the Union, Brexiteers chose Brexit. They even came out and said it themselves on some occasions. So when it comes to Scotland, Nigel Farage understands that there's a group of people, conservative-leaning people like the Alba Party. He can win those people over by selling them the idea that, I would be happy to see Scotland leave the Union. Now, Farage will not come out and say it, but the party will try and push this sort of subtly, this message. Because they know that there are a lot of people who are not happy with the SNP, they're not happy with Labour, they're not happy with the Tories. And Farage and Reform can sell both sides. They can say, no, we are unionists, we care about the union. But at the same time, they'll sell the idea that, Scotland should be allowed to leave if it wants. When it came to Northern Ireland, Nigel Farage has hinted at, if we have to leave the ECHR, Great Britain can leave, but Northern Ireland will sort something out with that. Well, as I've said before, the only way that Northern Ireland could be part of the ECHR and GB not is under a united Ireland. This would destroy the Union. But once again, Nigel Farage doesn't care about the Union. Brexiteers don't care about the Union. English nationalists will wave the Union flag, but their priority will be England. They would happily sacrifice the Union, get rid of Scotland, get rid of Wales, get rid of Northern Ireland, if the focus was going to be England. And we could see a situation, if Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister, that the Union would completely disintegrate. Because once again, he doesn't care about Wales, he doesn't care about Scotland, he doesn't care about Northern Ireland. His focus is England. His power base is there. The Conservatives are pretty much the same, but the Conservatives understand the value of holding on to Scotland. They understand the need to hold on to Scotland. They're a Conservative and Unionist party. So it would destroy the Conservative Party if they said, let's just focus on England. They do, politically, and pretty much in every way, but rhetorically, they have to sell the idea that they're Unionists. So I think we're going to see, going forward, a sort of pandering from Farage to certain elements in Scotland. Because remember, Scottish independence isn't just the SNP. It isn't a left-wing idea. It crosses the political divide. There are people on the right in Scotland who support the idea of independence. And Farage can tap into that and say, yeah, you know, we would support the idea of Scotland becoming independent, but he won't make it too official. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what do you think? I'll see you in the next video.